And welcome everybody. Here I have the new Insta 360 X3. Let's get to work. Okay, so the first thing I notice on the box, now bearing in mind this is a pre-production model, so there has been no blurb, no info or anything on this camera for me yet. I've been sent this camera probably months before this actual release date. So like I say, the first thing I notice is that they've dropped the wording 1. So it's now Insta 360 X3, not the 1X3. The second thing I notice, of course, is that beautiful, fantastic big display. So let's have a little look inside the box and see what the actual camera looks like. Beautiful packaging again. Oh, and there it is. And that does look nice. The screen looks fabulous. I hope it lives up to how well it looks on the pictures there. So bearing in mind, again, because this is a pre-production model, there is no app at the moment, so I can't download latest software or anything like that. I can't even configure the camera through my phone. What I have to do is basically charge this up, turn this on, and work with what's actually in this unit. So bear with me. Obviously, as the review goes on, I'll have software updates and later models to show you. But for the moment in time, this is exactly all I have to play with. So welcome outside. Incidentally, I'm recording this piece to camera on the new Insta 360 X3. It's going to take me a while to get used to not calling it a 1X3. So for those of you who are new to the channel as well, I'm Dave Perry. And those who are familiar with the channel, you'll probably expect me to walk to a motorbike shed now and take a motorbike out. After all, that's what this channel primarily does. But if you're new to the channel, I'm also a television cameraman and have been for the last 35 years. So I know a thing or two about cameras. So even though you might not be into motorbikes as such, hang around because you will learn a lot about this camera. Okay, let's get straight into the nitty-gritty and ask this question first of all, which is what I did when I heard the X3 was coming out. If you already own the 1X2, how much better is the X3? I must admit, I was expecting it to be a lot smaller. I'll just do a side-by-side comparison test because even the battery, as you can see here, I'll take the battery out. Even the battery is slightly bigger than the 1X2, which means obviously you can't use your spare batteries you had for that. It does say, however, that there is 10% more battery life. So obviously that's the good side about that sort of trade-off. What I would be concerned about, you can see here it's slightly thicker, the X3 I'm talking about, the width of it. And already I had a few problems with different stitch lines, only on close-up work. So it'll be interesting to see if it struggles with a stitch line, again, on close-up stuff. I think for best results, you're supposed to place the camera 50 centimeters away from your subject, but sure, we'll play around with that during the course of the review. Okay, time to start looking at some picture profiles now. Let's see if they've really improved the X3 over the 1X2. Fear not, the motorbikes will come, but before I do hop on two wheels, I wanted to do this little test. First of all, so I could spin the camera around just to see how good the stitch line is on close-up things like the side struts here on the windscreen, because on the recent review I did on the Insta 361 RS, the stitch line was absolutely awful on close-up stuff, and I always said that the 1X2 had a perfect, well, literally seamless stitch line. I want to see if that's the same on this X3, so I'm just going to spin the camera around a little bit. So as you can see, it's really impressive. All bodes well for this first test. I can't see any stitch line there. And as I board my next mode of transport, I want to see exactly how the camera handles going from fairly light into, well, not dark as such, but certainly a difference in light, lower light. So one thing to point out here is that the new X3 has a slightly bigger sensor. This is a 1/2-inch sensor, so it should be able to cope with lower light a lot better. The big thing I want to see as well from this sensor is, can you zoom in? Because with any 360 camera, as soon as you zoom in within the software, the picture literally falls apart. Now, this footage isn't looking great at all, but as a bit of a disclaimer, the software is very, very early in the pre-production run, so hopefully that will improve. Okay, so first picture test. I'm in active HDR mode. Now, I've never really been a particular fan of this on any sort of action cam, mainly because I use these cameras on both my motorbikes. And when you're traveling at speed, there's all sort of weird artifacts goes on. It's like the camera can't keep up with the processing of the signal because you're moving through the landscape as quick. So that's why I was quite keen to test it here. In these beautiful serene surroundings on the River Liffey, just leaving Dublin. I still don't like active HDR because look what it's doing to the sky. It's just not a nice gradient. It is dealing with the contrast very well. You can see the sun peeking through on the top left hand of frame, but I still don't like what it's doing to the colour. It's like you've got a really heavy grad filter on. Of course, all of this is personal preference. Oh, look at the stitch line there. That isn't good. Oh my gosh. Yeah, so all of this is personal preference. I just don't like what it's doing with the sky compared to the water there. The other thing to point out is that this camera is exactly the same in terms of megabits. It's 100 megabits per second, and they also claim that it's waterproof up to 10 meters as well. So if I was to drop it off the edge of the boat, it might stand a chance of survival. So I'm going to pop it back into standard colour profile. We'll get rid of that active HDR. So I'm in 5.7K, 25 frames per second. I'm going for a little walk around here. And already I love the colours in this picture. It's a really nice image actually. Yes, look at the sky here. That's now that's perfect. And look at how it's dealing with the contrast within the sky and the clouds. That's really beautiful image. Very impressed with this. Okay, I've had enough of boats now. I think we shall test it out in the air. And straight off you can see how well the horizon leveling in the 5.7K mode is doing just by looking at the horizon. There I am. Looking rather tired. Anyway, it's dealing with the contrast really well outside. There's about 5 stops of difference inside the aeroplane as opposed to outside on this beautiful sunny afternoon. I'll show you another shot here with the sun blaring right down the lens, and even look at the exposure on the seat. I'm very impressed at how it's handling this. Let's take a little look inside the menu system. Oh, I really do love this screen, by the way, and it's really easy to navigate when you go into the menu system. Another thing I just noticed there, when I power up the camera, it vibrates, and it's the same for when you start recording. And it's just that added confidence signal to let you know that you are in a record mode, or indeed if your battery dies, it'll vibrate and tell you that it's coming out of record. So the menu settings, the screen is really responsive. I'll not go into everything here because, well, there isn't time in this 20-minute video, but everything you need really is within, and all of the settings I've been doing as well. You can see as you navigate through here, you have voice control on this as well. There's a few new modes coming to it as well, which is loop recording and 8K time-lapse videos, and what was the other thing? Oh yeah, 72 megapixel stills photography. If somebody turns up with this to do a commercial shoot on stills, send them home, because 72 megapixels is again just a bit of a gimmick. That's obviously counting all of the megapixels within the 360 degree sphere. In a normal frame, like 4x3 or a 3x2 frame, you'll probably be getting 18 megapixels. I'm sure I've read somewhere that normal photograph mode is indeed 18 megapixels. So anything else to tell you about here? Obviously I've got the screen protectors on, just to protect it when I'm walking along beaches and doing whatever else I'm doing for this review. Haven't seen any distortion with them on compared to them not being on. So all good. So time to run a few more audio tests. I've deliberately chosen this location because, as you can see, I'm next to the ocean and there's quite a bit of noise. It's also a fairly windy day. I should state that this clip you're looking at now, I have selected wind reduction within the audio menu settings. So Like the rest of this review, I'll only know when I get back into the edit just how this sounds.
And in fairness, it's not actually sounding great. In fact, I'm struggling to hear my own voice. So I'm just going to switch another mode within the menu now.
Okay, I've just selected directional enhancement within the audio menu settings. And again, it'll be very interesting to see how different that sounds from the previous clip, which had the wind reduction mode on. To be honest, it's not that windy, so the wind has died down a lot. I should also state that I'm holding the camera at arm's length rather than the full length of the selfie stick, which, to be honest, would have been a bit unfair because the selfie stick is about 2 meters long, and any microphone, in fairness, would struggle that far away from an audio source.
And as you can hear, there is a world of difference. So this already would be the go-to setting within the audio menu for me. Directional enhancement, it's called on this pre-production model.
And to finish this audio test, I've selected the inbuilt microphones to stereo. So again, it'll be very interesting to see how this sounds back in the edit.
You can definitely hear the separation. Maybe it's not on the phone or whatever you're watching this video on, but as I was editing, there's definitely a lot of separation. So you could probably use this mode to record music or street scenes, for instance. But for me, just walking along the beach, talking away to myself, I prefer the second one, the directional enhancement. And just a few little words on the picture profile I'm using here. I have the colour set to standard. I have the bitrate set to high. I don't know why anybody would set it to low. But I'm really enjoying the colours from this camera so far. Now look at this backlit as well, but the colour of the sky and the water and even the sand, it's all very, very natural. Now, time for a walk around the port at night time. What a lovely way to do a camera review. Now, since you saw me driving onto the boat earlier on in this video, Insta360 sent me a new firmware. And you can see by this, it's a lot better in the dark. In fact, I'm only lit here by ambient lighting from the shops. So I think it's doing an incredible job. And look at these images here. I mean, look at the light coming out of the apartment buildings in the background. The reflections on the water. And my skin tones here. It's really doing a great job. Now, bearing in mind this was pitch black when I was walking around here, and I wasn't expecting any usable image to come out of this, so I was very surprised. As with all of this footage, I haven't tweaked anything in the edit. This is all straight from the camera.
Okay, so I'm now shooting in the 150 degree mode rather than the 360 mode. This was actually designed for vloggers, so you can film yourself like this, walking along a beach and everybody else on the beach looking at you, making an idiot of yourself. But again, I've got the audio set to wind reduction, so I hope that's okay. What this does, and by the way, this 150 degree mode is in the basic mode. You can also select it to pro mode. What does that mean? That means you can select the shot again in the software when you get home and tweak around and do a little bit of jiggery pokery. With the basic mode, which is what I'm shooting this in, even though I'm shooting in 4K 25p, because I'm in Europe, that's a bone of contention with me. I'll get back to that on another video, I think. But what was I saying? Oh yes, so basically you can still, you should be able to use this footage straight from the camera. The screen is lovely and big, so I can see exactly the shot I've selected of me, and obviously you can select a shot in front of you as well if you want, but for everyday vlogging this camera should be ideal for that, as well as doing all the 360 stuff. So let's take it back to the edit. We'll have a little look at this camera picture and analyze it in voiceover.
So I know now that I should have used the directional enhancement setting within the audio menu, but nevertheless I'll do it correct the next time. I just am in love with this picture though. I really can't say enough about it. Again, this is all in natural setting. By the way, the whole camera is on auto. Even though you can mess around with aperture and shutter speed, I'm just keeping it all on auto.
And as I'm walking down the beach, a friend of mine is approaching me here. I'll introduce you to him. This guy's a great character. Hello! This is alleged.
Yes.
He loves my wife and my wife loves him.
Yes.
Because he brings her many beautiful handbags.
Very beautiful handbag, yeah.
How are you doing today, Alej?
It's okay, you?
All good, yeah.
Yeah.
My wife is waiting for you up on the beach there.
Yeah?
So yeah. She doesn't have much money today.
No, because you are here.
This guy knows the score.
I love you, man.
I'm doing a little camera review.
Yeah, it's nice, no?
Yeah, it's lovely, yeah. Well,
Is camera?
this sort of review has been waiting for a male model like you coming along.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah.
And that was a prime example of how you can just use the camera as a normal action cam, which you could just whip out your pocket and capture the scene just like I did there with Alej. Now it's time. Let's get back home and get out on two wheels. So I set the audio mode to wind reduction again, and weirdly this is the first time I've ever been able to hear the sound of one of my bikes, because it's always too windy on whatever camera I use. Picture profile here, you can see the sky is beautiful, as is the grass. It's not too saturated. Again, this is the natural setting, or I think it's called standard now in the software or the latest software that I'm using. I don't know what version of software you guys will have when you get your camera, but I just really love the picture profile here. And the shutter speed is being adjusted automatically because, again, I have the camera on full auto, which is obviously what I need when I'm on a motorbike. I can't be stopping the bike and adjusting the settings just because the sun might come out. I'll make a separate video as well just about how I'm mounting the camera on board the motorbikes to get angles like this. I have done one a couple of years ago if you want to look through the channel library, and it was with the first Insta 360 camera, but yeah, it's about time I made a new one. Okay, a change of bike and a change of camera settings. I've set the sharpness up to extreme just because I'm going to zoom in on this footage and I want to point out any little artifacts which, as I mentioned earlier, which you would get zooming in on any 360 camera. I should point out that as well as this standard colour mode, there is also vivid, which I'll play next. There's also a log mode. Can't really see the point of log because this is only an 8-bit camera and not 10-bit where you will get the full dynamic range. Anyway, I've zoomed in here and as you can see, well, just look at the writing on the tank. It's just not good. It's not good at all. Now, even though this is 5.7K, I've exported this entire video to my timeline as 4K, so it should still hold up a lot better than that. So basically, folks, just watch where you place the camera. If you want to do close-up shots like this, just mount the camera closer to the bike. The colour setting now I've switched to vivid. I personally don't like this, but of course all these settings are subjective. But just look at the red wheels that are popping just too much. The yellow is too bright as well. And also the grass is just, well, not an authentic colour of green, if you know what I mean. I just think it's too saturated. I'm now in active HDR mode, just to demonstrate it to you whilst moving at speed. I just don't think it works at all. There is a reason that broadcast cameras don't have active HDR within the settings, because I just think it's a bit of a gimmick. Now, a strange phenomenon occurring here as well. If you look at the telephone wires, you can see the stitch line where it hasn't quite got that right. That's strange. I hadn't noticed that in the normal colour settings. This is only happening in active HDR. Again, I'll give it the benefit of the doubt, and it's probably a firmware update. But I'll even look at the gradient within the sky, the colour of the sky, and the blacks look really crushed on the bike, my clothing, my jeans, even in the front wheel there, the darkness inside that front wheel is really crushed. I wouldn't be using this at all, certainly not on a motorbike. When I was back on the boat at the beginning of the video, I still didn't even like it then, but there we go, just take a quick look at that. Wow, that's really bad stitching. Hopefully they'll have that sorted out by the time you've got your camera. Time to switch everything back into my favourite setting, which is the standard colour profile on full auto, 5.7K, 25 frames per second. The bitrate is high, sharpness is normal. Any other settings I can think of telling you? I just think this is a great image. And look at the road whizzing past the camera, certainly when I'm taking the bends there. It's a really nice speed effect. Obviously that's all being done automatic with the shutter speed as well, so I could fine tune that again. But as I come round the corner, point a little bit more into the brighter sky there, you can just see how the contrast within the camera is handling the bright sky and the rest of the scenery, and of course the bright coloured bike to throw another complication into the grand scheme of things. Yeah, this is really, I mean, I use action cameras all the time when I'm out and about on my bikes for this channel, and this, I have to say, is just an incredible image. It's also worth noting that during the course of the last few months whilst making this review, I've been getting on average 80 minutes worth of battery time, except when I was in Spain, and that went down to 74 minutes, but that's understandable with the heat. The camera itself, however, never overheated. So, thanks so much for tuning in, folks. If you're new to the channel, please like and subscribe. If you want to buy one of these cameras as well, I also have an affiliate link. It all helps the channel, and I get a small kickback for that. But huge thanks to Insta360 for giving me the opportunity, and I appreciate you listening to my feedback along the way of developing the camera. Now, there's just one last thing for me to say. So back to my original question, would I still buy the X3 if I already owned the One X2? Of course I would, purely on that picture profile alone. I think it really is, I can't say enough about that. That's an incredible picture. In fact, I'd go as far as to say it's Insta360's best colour profile yet.